Hey everybody, Rosematter here. Welcome to part 26 of my Chaos Child Let's Play. In the last episode, we finished up the Dark Sky route, Aramura's route, which was, well, as the name implies, it was dark. I don't know why I was expecting it to be a happier ending, because, like, with Chaos Head, all the other endings leading up to the true ending were not great in terms of, like, it wasn't a good time. Things didn't end well, but it was like especially dark. So now we are going to be beginning the Deep Sky route, I believe it's called. And I have no idea. When I play these, I don't know whose routes they are. I just know the name of the routes. So I have no idea which person it's going to be focused on. But there's only one way to find out. So let's go ahead and start. So with this one, thankfully, we can load up from a Chapter 3 save right before I have to make a crucial decision at the school festival. I have to choose the negative delusion for Aramura, and that is going to activate the Deep Sky route. So let's go ahead and do that.
先輩にここに来てもらった理由、わかりますか？
いえ、
心当たり。
どっちの姿が本当の彼女なんだろう。一体何を？
実は先輩の家を調べさせてもらいました。
なんだって？一体いつの間に？いや、それよりどうやって中に？
それについてはこちらのお二人に協力してもらっちまったんですな。これが。
ん？なんで？っていうかクルス、何やってるんだよ。安静にしてないと。
はい、ストップ。そんなこと今はいいんですって。それより先輩の家を捜索してヤバい秘密を突き止めちゃいましてね。
は？やばい秘密って？一体。
My mind was racing. Did I have some kind of dangerous secret? One I was hiding in that RV? I had no idea. I couldn't think of anything.
あれ？わかりません？あなた、大変なものを集める趣味がおありのようで。
Her eyes were cold and filled with disgust. She was so friendly a moment ago, but now she was acting like a detective. I knew she had met with a detective earlier. Did that have something to do with it? Both Serica and Kurusu were refusing to look at me. That was the biggest shock of all.
言いたいことがあるなら、はっきり言ったらどうですか？
I worked up my courage and walked over to Aramura-san.
これですよ、これ。
Aramura-san took out some magazines out of her bag and threw them onto the desk. I gasped when I saw them.
そんなバカな！どうしてこれを？
ようやく事態を把握しましたか。宮代先輩、その雑誌名を言ってみてください。言いなさい。
クールキャットプレス。
It was my favorite magazine, the one that Genson brought me.
なぜこれを？
宮代先輩の人となりを調査するためです。
クールキャットプレスは関係ないだろ！
あります。大ありですよ。宮代先輩の性癖を把握する上で重要な証拠です。
僕の性癖を知ってどうするつもりだ？いや、誤解しないでほしいんですけど、クールキャットプレスを買っているのは性的な欲求のためじゃなくてですね。むしろサブカル関連の情報を得るためと言いますか。
言い訳は見苦しいですよ。
本当だって。尾上、クルス、信じてくれるよな？
Serica and Kurusu looked away even harder.
そんな、どうして。
自分の行いについて冷静に思い返してみたらどうです？宮代先輩は証拠を残しているんですよ。クールキャットプレスを性的欲求のために買っているんだっていう証拠を。
証拠？
I stared at the copies of Cool Cat Press on the desk, and then I realized each of them was marked with several stickers. My blood ran cold. I was definitely the one who had put them there, and of course I knew exactly what they meant.
理解しました？
Also, Aurora, she could tell when you're lying, so she would know regardless.
いや、その。
先輩って几帳面ですよね。あ、そうだ。ちょっと付箋の貼ってあるページに何が書いてあるか読み上げてみましょうか。尾上さんとクルス先輩にも協力してもらって。
はあ？なんでそんな。
面白そうだからに決まってるじゃないですか。
Oramura-san grabbed one of the magazines off the table. She flipped it open to one of the marked pages and gave me a long glance before she started to read.
新しいキッス感覚の旅に出る。はは、キッスに興味がおありですか。
I mean, that's pretty innocent. It could be so much worse.
次。
I have a feeling it's gonna get worse, though.
2回目のデートでお持ち帰り必勝法。そもそも1回目のデートすらしたことないだろみたいな驚異のこたつマジックで女の子は好きだらけ。こたつで落とせ。こたつ？
I could feel my will draining away. This torture was worse than I'd imagined.
はい。じゃあ次は尾上さん。
Man, this one is just going on and on, isn't it? Onoe walked over hesitantly. She still was refusing to look at me. She picked up another issue of Cool Cat Press and opened it. She looked a little embarrassed.
読んで。女の子の感じるツボ大使い。ツボ？指圧師でも目指すつもりですか？夢があって。はい、次。海を見に行こうよと誘えば女の子はついてくる。海っすか。ついてかないですよ。はい。じゃあ次はクルス先輩。
You're kidding me. There was nothing in the world as embarrassing as your relatives finding out about your sexual fetishes. Don't you know what you're doing, Aramura Hinai?
学校内恋愛の落とし穴。別れた後に気をつけろ。付き合う前から別れた後の心配っすか。まず女子と付き合えるかどうかを心配しましょうよ。
もう許して。
じゃ、そろそろ最後。振られた時に聴きたいバラードトップ10。振られた時って最初から負け戦想定してるんですか？それとも振られて落ち込んでる俺かっこいいみたいな中二な妄想ですか？恥ずかしい。
もうやめてくれ
That happened. I'd kill myself. No, no, no. I didn't put that many sticky notes in my copies of Cool Cat Press anyway. That's right. Only one, or maybe two. That's right. And they weren't in the parts that were about getting girls. They were in Mina Mikata Kenji Sensei's column. or the articles on men's fashion. I should stop thinking about this. I needed to figure out why Aramura-san had brought me here, but I basically knew already.
事件のことですか?
Oh, here we go. This is new. Pandemic call a dance to echoes past. It was nighttime, but for some reason the back gate was open. I went in from there. I'd been so desperate to get away that I hadn't even realized where I was. Maybe I'd come this way so many times that I had just followed the path unconsciously. The lights were still on in the teacher's office and a few of the special classrooms. It was late, but it was possible that someone was still here cleaning up after the culture festival. At some point, I'd gotten separated from Aramura. That worried me. I imagined her screaming as she was burnt by a pillar of flame and almost threw up. No, that's overthinking things. It's impossible. It can't happen. Why were we attacked anyway? Was that woman after me or Aramura? Somebody tell me. My throat was parched. I hadn't even been running that long. It hurt to breathe. My strength was at its limits. The one thing I could be thankful for was that the horrible sensation caused by the sumo stickers was gone. For now, I decided to just head to the clubroom. It wasn't necessarily safe, but I at least wanted to catch my breath. And maybe Aramura would be there too. The door was unlocked and the lights were on. I quickly ran inside. I staggered inside and collapsed on the table. I wanted water. No matter how much I tried to breathe, my lungs demanded more oxygen. The room filled with the sound of me gasping for air. Nobody responded. Is Aramura not here after all? If so, then why are the lights on? My throat was so dry that I choked when I tried to speak. I curled into a ball and spat phlegm out of my mouth. Only then was I able to raise my head and look around the room. Okay, this is gonna be the Kazuki route. I guess it makes sense when you do things in the right order, because in the last route we learned that Kazuki was a psychic, so we're gonna learn more about that and her power. Kazuki was there. She was standing in the corner of the room looking at me with wide eyes. That would explain why I thought no one was here. But what is Kazuki doing here at this hour? Did she come here after I left for the RV this afternoon? I thought about asking her, but before I could, I saw the computer monitor. It was displaying the same game screen as always. She's playing a game? How could she be playing a game at a time like this, when I was almost killed by that woman? I choked again. I could only speak in a hoarse whisper. She must have noticed how out of breath I was, because she offered me a bottle of mineral water. If the cap was off, did that mean she had been drinking from it? He's gonna be like, that's as close to a kiss as I've ever had with a girl. I wondered for a moment if it was okay to drink, but I wasn't in a position to be choosy. I snatched the bottle out of her hands and poured its contents down my throat. I drank so fast that some of the water had gone down the wrong pipe and I started to cough violently, but I still felt a lot better than before. I collapsed to the ground, unable to say another word. When I finally caught my breath, the terror from before came back and my body started to shake. I needed to hide somewhere. I couldn't be sure that this place was safe, and if it wasn't, Kazuki would be in danger too. Kazuki seemed confused by my behavior. Does she want to ask what's going on? I didn't think she cared about anyone else, but maybe she's nicer than I thought. She did come to check on me with the others in the afternoon, after all. That being said, I don't think I even have much time to explain the situation to her. First, I have to get somewhere safe. That sound. It was an eerie sound, like something had exploded. You'd never hear that sound as part of a normal, everyday life. But sometimes you'd hear it in fiction, like in movies or TV shows.
の辺だろう。
It felt like it was far away, but it was hard to tell. I stood up and opened the window to look outside.
Huh?
The car parked near the front entrance had exploded. Black smoke was rising, and the flames were illuminating their surroundings. A teacher had run out of the office and was yelling for someone to call a fire truck.
あいつだ。
It's that woman. It's too dark to spot her from here. But I was right. She really is after me. Does that mean that I'm her target? If so, why me?
あなた殺されますよ、宮代拓先輩。
Is it because I'm a psychic? Shit.
出ないと。
As I went to leave the room, my gaze met KAZUKI'S. I didn't have time to explain.
和樹、今すぐ帰るんだ。家にできるだけ目立たないように行くんだ。でも校門、そう校門はダメだ。通るな。
That was all I had time to say before I fled into the hallway. How many people were still here in the school building? I heard what sounded like a teacher's voice down below. At times like this, a wrong-sider could do nothing but panic. In fact, they often did stupid things that put them into even more danger. Wait, isn't that what I was doing right now? I felt like laughing for some reason. I just prayed she wouldn't hurt anyone else. All I could do was pray and run. There was no sign of her in the hallway. I need to head out to the main building and escape out the back. I heard another distant explosion. It felt what might have been the building shaking. The glass was vibrating.
マジかよ。
Kazuki ran out of the room too. She was trying to follow me.
なんで追ってくるんですか？
Why the hell is she following me? If that woman really is after me, then Kazuki is putting herself in danger. But Kazuki ignored my warning and shook her head frantically back and forth as if she was about to cry.
くそ、とにかく学校から出よう。
I yelled, more for my own sake than Kazuki's, and started to run down the hallway. We crossed the connecting hallway to the main building. In the distance, I could hear someone yelling for people to get to a safe place. The area around the school was in chaos. It must have been the people who lived in the neighborhood. Why is she drawing so much attention to herself? Isn't she trying to kill me? Even if she does manage to kill me, does she really think she can escape with all these people around?
なんなんだよ。
Why is the woman trying to kill me anyway? Is she really the culprit behind the murders? Or is she just a psychopath who likes setting things on fire at random? If she is, then what the hell? I bit my lip and ran down the dark hallway. If it was this dark, it wouldn't be easy for her to find me. All I had to do was get to the bottom of the stairs at the other side of the building. Then I'd go right past the library, then the track, and I'd reach the rear entrance. If I could make it out of the school while she was setting fire to cars at the front gate, I could escape.
和樹、急げ。
Kazuki was trying her best to keep up with me. To be honest, she was slowing me down, but I was the one who had run into the club room. Part of me thought it was my fault for getting her involved. So I had no choice but to wait for her. I waited for her to catch up to me and started to dash down the stairs. But then... This time I heard an explosion coming from the track outside. I could see crimson flames rising outside the dark window.
そうだろう。回り込まれたのか。くそ、引き返そう。
We stopped at the second floor and started to run back to the main gate. First, she'd burned the cars outside the gate, then she'd headed for the rear. It was unlikely that she'd head back to the front gate that quickly. Kazuki was running out of breath. So was I, honestly. I was exhausted and we hadn't even been running that long. But we didn't have time to rest. We ran past the cafeteria, then went down to the entrance on the first floor. The entrance was always open during the day, but now all the doors were closed and locked. They were the kind that you needed a key to open, no matter what side you were on. Should I break a window? I looked outside for a moment and was astonished by what I saw. Well, he can use his abilities to unlock the doors, right? The gate was sealed with burning cars. When I'd seen it from the room, there weren't any cars there. No way. Did she move them there to block the gate? Did she actually move the burning cars all by herself? That's insane. I could see a crowd gathering around the burning cars, too. If I tried to force my way through and the woman came back, just thinking about it terrified me. That psychopath wouldn't even think twice before killing them all. I couldn't leave by the main gate. It would be too dangerous to try and avoid her flames while running through the crowd. Kazuki flinched when I yelled. Where do we go? Should we head back out to the rear entrance? She was just out there. I'd probably run right into her. Calm down. Think. As I stood there, paralyzed, I could feel the fear crawling up my body. I came to this school every day, but at this moment it felt like I'd never been here before. Every shadow seemed like it might hide some danger. I was overcome with the idea that she might appear at any moment, and I couldn't move a muscle. In my head, I knew that it'd be easy to find me where I was, and that I needed to move. But I couldn't. It felt like my mind had been separated from my body. This was very bad. I might die here. Kazuki tugged lightly on my sleeve. And then I got a hold of myself again. My body was shaking, but I was barely able to move. We just needed to hide somewhere. I ended up coming to my own classroom. I closed the doors and crouched by the windows, using the desks to block myself from sight. Kazuki was looking at me, concerned. Kazuki quickly ducked down under a desk. Now all we had to do was stay put and wait for the storm to pass. I listened for any noises outside. I became extremely sensitive to even the smallest sound. Even a tiny noise was enough to make me start shivering. I hadn't heard any explosions for a while. As I sat there, cradling my knees in my arms, I felt the urge to scream from terror. I bit my lip to stop myself from doing it. Maybe it would have been a better idea to keep running around the school. I was too defenseless here. I was hidden, sure, but if she found this place, I was finished. This was the 4th floor. I couldn't jump out the window. She trapped me in here. I was done for. Maybe this was a bad idea. The fear kept building. I couldn't stay calm. I wanted to run. But even if I did get out of the school, how long would I have to keep running? When would she give up? Was there any guarantee she ever would? Maybe she'd keep following me until I was dead. I shuddered. I could hear the distant sound of heels. I could hear the faint sound of someone dragging their leg. I thought back to when Aramora and I had been attacked less than an hour ago. Was she dragging her leg? I couldn't remember. But I felt sure of it somehow. Those footsteps belonged to her. Is this where Kazuki's gonna use her abilities? Kazuki gulped. That meant I wasn't imagining the footsteps. And they were closer than I thought. She was on this floor. She was walking down the hallway. She was getting closer. I clutched myself tighter, but I couldn't stop shaking. Does she know that I'm here? Or is it just a coincidence? Should I stay here? Should I move? If I run out now, she'd find me for sure. But there's no guarantee she'll just walk by my classroom. Either way, I'm screwed. It's over. I'm going to be burned alive. I panicked and moved over to Kazuki. Kazuki's eyes went wide as she finally understood the situation. Skipped the explanation about what pyrokinetic powers were because I figured she might know from her games.
このままじゃ二人とも殺される。なあ、何か手はないか。何でもいい、知恵を貸してくれ。
She's close. She's almost on top of us. All I could do was crouch and hold my head in my hands. This whole situation was insane. I was going to be killed without even knowing why. Which is like the same thing he said to Sarika, right? So maybe Kazuki will jump in. Because that's what... Isn't that her ability? Like, based on what we saw with Aramura, was Kazuki made Aramura's... Like, she wanted to see her brother, so she did. But is it like a monkey's paw thing where it's like, you get what you want, but maybe not in the way that you were expecting? And then a whisper akin to a silent prayer, or perhaps a beseechment, found its way to my ears.
なんとかできるかも。かも。
But she always says maybe. It's like she doesn't believe her own powers. She's like not confident in her abilities. Kazuki stood up and looked down at me, her face filled with uncertainty. Oh shit. Damn, that thing looks... I don't know how to describe it. Almost like a mower or something. Like it's like a chainsaw or something. What is that grotesque thing she's holding in her hands? Yeah, it does look like a chainsaw. It looked like some strange creature from the deep sea. Or perhaps a spine. Yeah, it does. Or perhaps a spine ripped out of a human body. It was solemn, grave, and sharp, projecting everything around it. It was full of a radiant charm that enthralled everything around it. It shone with the light of its contradicting nature. The one thing I knew for sure somehow was that it was a sword. Is this a D-sword? Kazuki has a D-sword too?
カズキ、お前、喋った？いや、それよりその件。
I was so confused. So much was happening at once that I couldn't keep up. I didn't know what to ask first.
屋上行けば。
屋上？
I wasn't sure what she was talking about or why she'd suddenly decided to start talking, but the footsteps were getting closer.
どうなるかわかんないけど、結果は保証できないかもだけど、それでもいいなら。
So that's it. Kazuki's trying to save me. I stood up as silently as I could.
屋上に行けばいいんだな。
There was no time to think about it. Even if she couldn't guarantee what would happen, I didn't have any other choice. Fortunately, the woman had passed by our classroom and headed for another wing of the building. We were able to make it to the roof easily. The roof of Hekiho Academy was a garden. Of course, it was the first time I'd been here at night. Now wasn't the time for sightseeing, but I still gasped when I saw the view of Shibuya at night. I looked down over the fence and saw the front gate right below us. The cars were still burning and the crowd was getting bigger. The fire department was right nearby, but the fire trucks hadn't arrived yet. What was she going to do here? Was she going to use that sword to fight? That would be like something out of a manga or anime. I couldn't imagine her trying to fight with that thing. And if she wanted to fight, there was no need to come to the roof at all. She could have just ambushed the woman in the hallway. So maybe she's not a fighter. She doesn't seem like one. Was she trying to be chivalrous or something?
先輩。
え？
隠れててもらった方がいい。
But you know what? Sometimes it's the ones you least expect, like Sarika, for example, who is stone cold and a pretty deadly person.
どうするつもり？
Kazuki glanced at me but didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the fence. And then, she grabbed onto the fence and took a deep breath. With no warning whatsoever, she screamed into the empty air.
はしご。
Okay, so she can create things. So that's probably why she doesn't speak up, is when she speaks, she creates things, but she doesn't want to use her power very often.
防火扉。 スプリンクラー。
Huh? What's going on here?
屋上に牢屋。土砂降りの雨で火が消える。
Is she just like yelling out as many things as possible? Be like, hopefully I have, at least a 30% chance of one of those things appearing. Is she stupid? She keeps yelling like that. The woman will hear us. Is she trying to turn me over to her?
校舎に催眠ガス。警察の機動部隊出動。消防車で放水。5台じゃなくて10台。
待ってって。
I grabbed Kazuki by the shoulders and tried to make her stop, but she knocked my hands away. Even in the darkness, I could see tears in her eyes. Oh. The second she said the words, I felt a pressure in my chest, like a cold hand gripping my heart. For some reason, I felt like I was being forced to fall asleep. So that's the reason why she's quiet, is when she speaks, she creates things. So she's like, the less I speak, the less I use my powers. Maybe it's like really exhausting on her, so she doesn't want to use her powers very often. I wanted to speak, but I felt like I had to stay quiet. I vaguely dreaded that if I'd said something, I'd be erased from the entire world. I staggered away from Kazuki, unable to find the words to say anything. Was this why she told me to hide? Damn, she wants an AK-47? The name of a Soviet automatic rifle first manufactured in 1949, the AK-47 is legendary for its reliability and ease of use, and even now, well over a half-century later, there are many militaries which still use guns based off the AK-47. Second-hand AK-47s and illegally made copies can be found all over the world, especially in the hands of paramilitary groups and terrorist organizations. Okay, another gun. A machine gun first used by the American Army in the late 1950s. RPG! An RPG? Is she getting these from her games? Oops. Portable recoilless anti-tank launcher developed by the Soviet Union. Okay. I love the idea of like her just pulling a bunch of stuff from her games that she plays. Okay, an anti-personnel mine developed in the United States. It works by being placed on the ground, and when it detonates, huge numbers of metal balls fly at the target at high speeds. What was she yelling? I didn't understand at all. There's going to be a lot of heads here. Unmanned aerial vehicle. Multiple types of UAVs, such as completely autonomous ones that fly a pre-programmed route or attack pre-designated targets, as well as those that are controlled remotely by pilots on the ground. UAVs can be given a variety of missions, such as reconnaissance and bombing. And then she suddenly fell silent. She was thinking about something. I should just forget about relying on her. I should just get out of here now. It was safe to assume Kazuki's shouting had attracted the woman's attention. Man, so I'm guessing that not everything that she calls for actually comes, because she would be the most OP person if everything that she said she could make a reality. Kazuki started to scream again, oblivious to my fears. I couldn't take it anymore. I looked down over the fence. The crowd was looking up and pointing at Kazuki. I looked over at the other building too, but I couldn't see the woman from my current position. You could have just led with that. She just dies. God mode Sue? Net slang refers to an it's like a Mary Sue. Refers to an extremely powerful character that never loses a fight and oftentimes never even gets scratched.
Kishi! Ninja!
I wanted to tell her to run away with me, but after she had told me to be quiet, I felt this strange pressure not to speak. The rest of the episode is just going to be her yelling random stuff. I just have to leave. If the woman was after me, Kazuki was probably safe here. I knew that was just foolish optimism, but I didn't feel like I had any other choice. I refused to just die here. Sorry, Kazuki. Excalibur. Geibolg. Alright, we're going into like fate stuff here. A legendary spear used by Cuchulainn. I don't think I said that right. In Celtic mythology. Alright, also called the Heavenly Sword of Gathering Clouds, one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan, the Kusanagi no Tsurugi grass-cutting sword is currently kept in Atsuta Shrine. I turned my back on Kazuki and headed for the door, but the door to the stairs exploded into flames right in front of me. A hot wind scorched my skin. It was too hot for me to even keep my eyes open. The unpleasant smell of smoke stung my nose. I heard a sound. It was the sound of the heels that I'd heard in the classroom a moment ago. A woman was standing in the fire, her long hair flapping in the wind. She was mumbling something to herself. I'd run right into her. There was no place to hide. The staircase was the only way down, and she'd just blown it up. This was it. I was dead. Kazuki started screaming again. She was just screaming meaningless words down into the crowd below, with her back turned to us. Now was not the time for this. I couldn't move at all. For some reason, the woman wasn't moving. She was just standing there, mumbling to herself. The one hero that's never locked out since launch. I searched my field of vision for my D sword. I'd seen it the last time we were attacked. If I could find it, I might be able to fight. But I didn't see any sign of it. I kept chanting, "Move, move, move," to myself, but nothing started to float up or move on its own. Even if I did have some kind of power, if I couldn't use it now, it was worthless. I was helpless. I was defenseless. It was far too late for it to matter. Far, far too late. But Kazuki finally stopped screaming. Her shoulders slumped helplessly. She was back to her usual, silent self. Suddenly, everything was so quiet I thought I could hear my heartbeat. I was so tense I thought I might throw up. So the one thing she managed to accomplish was getting me to be quiet. That's the only thing that seemed to actually take effect. The stomach acid was working its way up my throat. I forced myself to swallow it back down. It was all too likely that if I moved even an inch to let it out, the woman's flames would consume me in an instant. I couldn't move. Was I going to die? Kazuki was probably going to die too. I felt pretty bad about that. Did Aramura make it out okay? Would Serika, Kurusu, and Ito be sad without me? I could hear Kazuki's whisper, drowning in the howl of the wind. And then the pyrokinetic woman took one staggering step toward me. Flames appeared in her hand. It was over. I bit my lip and clenched my fist, trying to ready myself for the pain that was to come. Of course, nothing would be enough to prepare me for it, but I felt like if I didn't do that, I would collapse to the ground from fear. But then... Ooh, I heard an eerie, high-pitched noise from the moonlit sky. It was a maddening, painful noise, like the earth itself was screaming with agony. Now I'm just imagining it was just a bit of a delay, and every single thing that she asked for just comes crashing to the ground. It was the kind of noise that made people look to the sky in fear. The woman froze. I looked back down from the sky and blinked in confusion at what I saw. No, it wasn't just confusion. The thing had appeared between me and the woman with no warning at all. What the hell was this? It looked something like a globe. It was making a strange, slightly unpleasant sound, like metal scraping against metal. It looked like a piece of modern art. The rings on the outer edge were rotating in a paradigmatic manner, and the fractal hexahedron in its center was glowing softly. All right, which of the many things that she called for is this? It wasn't here a moment ago. It wasn't a part of the roof's decorations. It was impossible to believe it was real, because it looked like it was floating. I seriously wondered if I was seeing things. But I wasn't the only one who saw it.
ポータル装置かも。
Kazuki's words were a whisper. A portal device. What the hell? If she knew what it was, did that mean it was hers? But even she seemed to be shocked by its presence. So let's see the percentage. How many things did she yell out and we had one thing appear? Got a pretty... Maybe she needs to be more confident. Maybe the more confident she is, the more likely the things will appear. So maybe that's it, is I'm going to have to teach her to be more confident in her abilities, because she keeps saying maybe, maybe. So maybe her character growth will be that she will stop saying maybe, and when she asks for things, they appear. The woman panted like she was hyperventilating, then clicked her heels against the ground. The flames flickered in her hands. The fire exploded outward toward the strange object. The object was wreathed in a column of flame. But it didn't burn or melt from the heat or explode. It simply floated there. Maybe it really was an illusion. The woman looked frustrated. She raised her voice in a wordless scream, then tried to punch it with her other hand, and I could see the pallor of her face change in the light of the flames. She was frozen in shock. It wasn't just her expression. Her whole body seemed as still as if she had been encased in ice. The roaring flames began to disappear. I could see what looked like scan lines appear all over her body. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was hallucinating again. Oh, shit. Oh, wow. He just got blood all over him. Damn. So that's the end of her. But in an instant, her body dissolved into tiny particles. Red blood splattered everywhere. It covered my body. It was so hot I thought I'd burn. What the hell? What just happened? There was no trace of her body. There was nothing left of her except a spray of blood on my body and the ground. What Kazuki had called a portal device was still there. Was that the thing where she's like, just have her die? Making its strange noises. Still confused, I tried to touch it.
触ったらダメかも。
Kazuki grabbed my arm and stopped me. She still looked sad.
転送装置かもだから。演数2に出てくる。
変数2転送装置
ESO2 was the game Kazuki played all the time, right?
私、現実化しちゃったのか。
Now, wouldn't that be the dream? If you could... Okay, so here's a question. If you could make any item in a game real, what would you make? I feel like a teleporter would be kind of cool, like to just be able to teleport yourself anywhere in the world, like a fast travel almost. That would be cool. What did she mean, maybe? And wait, what did she mean by made it real?
あの女の人が消える時のエフェクト、同じだったかも。変数2でポータル装置使った時
Oh,
と。
okay. So when the woman touched it, it made the same graphical effect as when someone used the... Is that what she's talking about, or just like appearing? Or is she talking about when the woman touched it and then she just like, the lines appeared, but then it killed her?
エフェクトエフェクト
So maybe this is the thing, it's like with Aramora, where it's like, you want to see your brother again? Okay, I'll have you see your brother again, but he's going to torture you and try to kill you. What did she mean by graphical effect? No, I knew what she meant. That wasn't the issue. I didn't understand what she was saying. It was like listening to words from another dimension. So it's like she can create things, but there's a downside to it. Like it's not always a good thing.
ここはゲームの中じゃないんだぞ。普通人は消えないし、人の体にエフェクトなんて出ないんだぞ。
うん。ここは現実。演数2の中と違って、ポータル装置がある世界じゃない。だったら
Kazuki was a little hesitant, and there were tears in her eyes as she spoke.
あの女の人、どこ行っちゃった？
The woman had disappeared right in front of me. It was like she had been dissolved into tiny little pieces, whose blood was on my clothes and on the ground. So if it's a portal device, like maybe it created another version of her, like this version of her got decimated, but she was transported somewhere else. So yeah, I'm guessing like this is why Kazuki doesn't speak, is whenever she creates things, it doesn't go very well.
私、取り返しのつかないことしたかも。
Her words were vague, but she covered her face with her hands and fell to the ground, crying. Next to her, I vomited from the smell of blood. That woman was dead. I didn't know why exactly, but I felt sure of it. I felt no relief at having survived. I'd long since given up trying to take in everything that was going on around me. Shortly afterward, Kazuki and I had fled the school. I couldn't walk through Shibuya in blood-covered clothes, and I wanted to stay out of sight. As I wondered what to do next, Kazuki pulled me by the hand.
うち来てかも。
Kazuki.
I didn't ask why her Japanese was so weird. Where was her house? What if her family found me? I didn't have the energy left to ask. Kazuki looked exhausted and frightened. I was sure I did too. I didn't realize how nice the Hekiho student dorms were. It was nothing like Aoba dorm. The room did smell a little like squid. Ooh, the student dorms were about a 5-minute walk from the school. Kazuki said she lived here alone. The dorm rooms were like suites at an extended stay hotel. All rooms were private, and there was no dorm mother to make meals or do anything else. I didn't have the energy to go back to the RV, and I didn't want to see anyone right now. Instead of changing or sitting on the bed, Kazuki went to a corner of the room and crouched down. I sat on the floor a distance away from her. I brought my knees up and buried my head in them. Suddenly, I was starting to shiver. When I closed my eyes, I could see the flames and the look on the woman's face in the last second of her life. How wonderful would it have been if all of that, from the pyrokinetic woman to the attack, even Kazuki talking, was just a dream. I clutched myself tighter, trying to stop myself from shaking. Kazuki started to cry. I remembered reading in Cool Cat Press about how to seduce girls when they were feeling down. But I didn't feel like trying that out at all now. I couldn't come up with anything else to say to make her feel better either. I didn't have good enough social skills, and I didn't feel up to it anyway. So all I could do was pretend I didn't hear her. But even after 30 minutes, I could still hear her crying. And for some reason, she slowly stood up and headed for the front door.
Kazuki, どこ行くんだ? だけじゃわからない。
やっぱり警察話した方がいいかもって。私殺したかもだから。
待った、落ち着け。
I quickly ran over to her and grabbed her by the shoulders. Kazuki lost her balance and fell into my arms. I fell backward too and was unlucky enough to knock my back up against the low table. I writhed in pain for a minute, unable to breathe. As I waited for the pain to subside, Kazuki slowly got off me and sat down next to me.
使いたくなかった。こんな結果になるかもって予想できてたから。
和樹のせいじゃない。
That was all I could say. I didn't want to think about whose fault it might be then. It wasn't my fault either. That woman was the one who'd attacked me. I tried to tell myself this, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Kazuki put her hand on top of mine.
先輩、手握ってほしいかも。
It was tiny and soft, and I was so happy to feel its warmth. I held her hand tightly like it was the most natural thing in the world. Kazuki lowered her head and started to cry again. Both she and I were in a state of agitation right now. We needed to take some time to calm down. That felt like the best thing to do. We stayed like that for a while, holding each other's hands, and then we both fell asleep. I didn't dream. When I woke up, it was bright outside. I felt a warmth in my hand. Kazuki was still holding my hand, just like she had been when I fell asleep.
カズキ、起きるんだ。
She must not have been fully awake yet, because she didn't let go.
起きろって。
She did a double take. She rubbed her eyes a few times, gawking at her hand and mine, then looked at my face, and then back at her hand again.
これ。
Her face was bright red and she was looking downward, but she didn't let go.
そういうリアクションしないでくれますか?
I'm not used to this stuff either, you know. There's nothing in Cool Cat Press about how to deal with this kind of situation. Crap, I'm starting to sweat. If Kazuki notices, she might think I'm creepy.
とりあえず手を離してくれよ。出ないとトイレにも行けない。
トイレ。
Finally, my hand was free. My body ached all over because I'd slept in such a weird position, and my skin still stung a bit. I remembered the sensation from when I'd gone swimming as a little kid and gotten sunburned. I closed my eyes and I could still see the red flame. It gave me goosebumps. I quickly shook the image out of my mind. After I used the restroom, I got Kazuki's permission to turn on the TV. It was about 9 a.m. We were late for school, but I didn't feel like going anyway. I decided I'd skip class for today. There was a news program on, and just like I thought, it was talking about what had happened last night. Most of the video was of the burning cars around the front gate, though. I wonder if there's gonna be somebody would have been filming Kazuki screaming at the top of the roof, like just yelling all those random things.
と言いますのも、敷地内で何度か爆発のような音がしたのを周囲の住民の方々が聞いているんですね。しかも屋上には血痕とさらには謎の物体が残っていたということで、警察はテロの可能性もあるとして調べを続けています。
The mysterious object must be what Kazuki called a portal device. That thing is still there. Will the police be okay? If they touch it, will they disappear like that woman? I took another look at my uniform. It had been too dark last night for me to see, but it was covered in blood. The blood had even soaked through to my undershirt, and I'm sure there's camera footage of the two of them running off covered in blood. It made me feel sick just thinking about whose blood it was. I wanted to change, but of course there were no men's clothes in Kazuki's room. Maybe I should borrow her PC later and order some. How much do the police know anyway? Do they know who that suspicious woman was, or who she was after? The police do find out and come to question me. They'll inevitably learn what happened after that.
いやいや、まだあの女が死んだって決まったわけじゃ。
And even if she was dead, there was self-defense. They wouldn't prosecute me. Right, of course they wouldn't. At least, that's what I tried to tell myself. When I remembered what happened yesterday, it felt like my legs were going to start shaking again. I was worried about Aramora, but I didn't know how to get in touch with her. I decided to go down to the public phone in the dorm lobby and call Serica to see if she knew anything. She told me she and Kurusu were hiding Aramora in my RV. I'd happened to run into her last night after we'd been attacked by that woman. I was about to complain about them letting her use my RV, but changed my mind. What was important was Aramora was safe. Ah, man, it's such a bummer. Like, it was such a sad ending with Aramora, but I like the two of them together. I'm a little sad that, I mean, I would like to know more about Kazuki, but I really liked the two of them as a couple, oddly enough. Serica and Kurusu were both very worried about me. All Aramora had told them was that I had been attacked by a woman who could control fire, but I was as vague as possible. There was no way I could tell them what had actually happened yesterday. I hung up quickly without telling her where I was. Then I went back to the room.
今日休校だってさ。
That's what Kurusu had told me on the phone. The police were probably investigating.
カズキ、聞いていいか？
ん？
昨日、お前は一体何をしたんだ？
Kazuki didn't answer.
言えないことなのか？お前も能力を使えるんじゃないのか？
She still didn't say a word. She'd done so much talking last night, but now she was back to her usual self.
喋れないわけじゃないだろう。何も知らないっていうわけでもなさそうだし。
Kazuki shook her head.
よくないかも。
よくない？何が？
と、私と喋るのよくないかも。
What does that mean? It probably has something to do with the way she'd suddenly started yelling last night.
先輩の知りたいこと、詳しい人いるかも。
詳しい人？どこに？
Kazuki then pointed to the low table in the center of the room. There was a small laptop on top of it. Oh. Nine hard? What? Kazuki Hana is a gigalomaniac and a special one. The critical point to remember is sound. In other words, her voice. She can spread information, energy of a delusion with her voice. If you want a nice term to classify it, how about contagious hyper desi-realization? What makes it difficult is she lacks the power to control it, and she doesn't have any other powers. Her power is useless. Shit tier. Sucks to be her. 9 hard, that's Takumi, right? Oh my god, wait, what? Am I correct about that? 9 hard was definitely somebody from the first game. I think? Or was 9 hard the guy that he talked to? Ugh. The person she was talking about was typing in a chat room, or chat window on the screen. I was shocked to see the handle 9 hard on the screen.
ナイトハルトってもしかして。
Lightning fast 9 hard? That was one of the things that she had said yesterday, one of the things she yelled out, the guy responsible for the Esper panic that happened just before the earthquake 6 years ago. The one people said might have been deeply involved with the earthquake itself? I gulped. There was so much I wanted to ask him. I could write a whole article just on him. Okay, now I want to look this up. I can't remember who that was exactly. Okay, I looked it up. It is Takumi, or at least Takumi's handle. Was 9 hard a gigalomaniac too? Kazuki typed, tapping expressionlessly away at the keyboard. 9 hard, don't get jealous. What? Why the hell would I be jealous? You were a god in ESO, but you're a trash noob in ESO too, right? Your level is lower than mine. That's because I moved to ESO 2 after the beta test. And a noob like you probably doesn't even know this, but all the top ESO 1 players hate ESO 2. I mean, seriously, no character transfers? Of course we held a big protest. I put it together. I was surprised by how many top-ranked players showed up. 2 of the leaders from the top guild on the server. The guy who was famous for never logging out, not even once since the game started. The super popular chick with over 200 people on her friend list. The one who quit his job to cap every class. It was them and a hell of a lot of others. Over 30 of the best players were there. Even the lunatic who took out the Empire Dragon King solo. The Emperor, the 4 kings, the 10 heroes, and the 3 gods, and a whole bunch of others promised us they'd help. We were all ready to protest on the servers for days. Not one of us had anything going on in the real world. I moved to ESO 2 only after the war. Learn your history before you open your mouth, fool. So basically, I've been playing for longer than you, which makes me the boss. Go buy me a yakisoba sandwich. Wow, LOL, you summed all that up in a single line. And you, Hana Katsuo, would dare to boss me, the god of ESO 2, around? I will dox your ass any day of the week, bitch. Hana Katsuo was her own handle.
その顔文字、毎回入力してるのか？
She showed me that she had them registered as shortcuts on the keyboard, but that wasn't important right now. Yes, asking the important questions there, Takaru. Supposedly, Kazuki and Nineheart knew each other online from being in the same ESO2 guild.
じゃあ能力のことを相談していたのか。
Kazuki nodded. Lightning fast Nineheart, the legend himself. I love how she's so much more sassy online. Makes sense, though. So the rumors were true after all. I was so excited I was getting goosebumps all over my body. A lot of people said he was a fake after the Esper incident, but it turned out they were wrong after all.
私、地震の1年後くらいにはもう気づいてた。自分に特殊な力あるかもって。だからっていいことなんて何もなかったけど。
A year after the earthquake, that would be about 5 years ago. So she knew about it this whole time? I wanted to ask why she didn't help me when I was trying to learn to use my telekinesis, but I stopped myself. It probably had something to do with the reason why she never talked. She had the power to put the information energy from her delusions into her voice. Nineheart had given it the long and, if you ask me, nonsensical name of contagious hyper desi-realization.
カズキの力はナイトハルトの説明で
I guess it's like a mixture between desire and realization. Is there, oh. Kazuki nodded.
最初は周囲でおかしなことよく起きるかもって思ったくらいだった。例えば友達の持ってたペンが可愛くて欲しいなって言ってたら、次の日なぜかそのペン私のものになってたり、家で飼ってた白黒のブチ猫、すごくブサイクで好きだったけど、毛色はチャトラの方がいいなって独り言を言ったら、本当にチャトラになっちゃってたり、そういうことがいろいろ小学生の頃あった。だいたい5年前くらい。
喋ったことが現実になった。
うん。それだけじゃないかもだけど。
That wasn't all?
自分の言葉の何が現実化して何が現実化しないか、私にもわかんないかも。
Nineheart did say she couldn't control it, so that's why she was shouting all those words on the roof. She probably thought that at least one of them would work.
感染型っていうのはどういう意味？
中学の頃、仲いい友達がいて、いつも一緒だった。その子と一緒にいるの、すごく楽しくて、姉妹みたいだったかも。でも、私の力のせいで。
Her expression clouded over. I thought she'd stop talking, but I was wrong.
きっかけは、何気ない言葉だったかも。ごく普通の会話の中の言葉。でもその言葉、いろんな人に感染していて。
I feel bad that I was suspicious of Kazuki. I was like, oh, she's working with someone. She's secretly like a traitor or a bad person. And then, of course, well, I don't want to say Serika was a bad person, but Serika was kind of the traitor in a way. But it definitely recontextualizes everything. And I didn't know what to think with Kazuki. I still don't understand the pounding of the walls. I thought that was code for something. So, I mean, it's not out of the question. She might be working with somebody that's maybe working with like the committee or whatever.
私の知らないところで、私の言葉は私の言葉じゃなくなって。
Stopped being my word.
全然別の意味になっちゃってたかもしれなくて。自分でもそんな言葉喋ったの忘れちゃったくらいの頃、その言葉が現実化して、そのせいで私の大切な友達家族バラバラになっちゃった。その子のお父さん自殺して。 その子のお母さん、薬物に手出して。その子のお姉さん、知らない男の人たちに拉致されて、行方知れずで。
And this is so sad in context because knowing Aramora's route is when she finally felt confident to start talking to someone that she considered a friend, she did the same thing in a way and ended up making their life so much worse by trying to help.
その子は頭おかしくなっちゃった。元をたどっていったら、私の言葉のせいだったかも。かもじゃなくて、私のせい。こんな力なければよかったって思ったけど、なくすことできないなら、それなら一言も喋らなければ、もう誰か傷つけることないかもって。壁砲入ってから喋ったの、タクル先輩が初めて。
That's a lot to take in, so that's why she doesn't talk. If she talks, her power might activate. And if what Neinhard says is true, she really can't control it. There's no way to prove whether or not what happened to her in middle school was really because of her power. But even so, if she'd been able to control it, she'd probably asked herself that question a million times. Maybe remaining silent was her way of punishing herself. I asked Kazuki's permission to type a question to Neinhard. May I ask a question? Why can't Kazuki control her power? No emoji? Who are you? A member of her club at school. Oh, Miyashiro. Huh? How did you know my name? Kazuki told me about you yesterday. She said there was a moron in her club who had psychic powers but didn't know how to use them. Her face went red and she frantically shook her head.
相談したけど、タクル先輩、最近変な力手に入れたみたいだったかも。だから人前とかで使いすぎると危ないかもって思って。でもバカとか言ってないかも。
Maybe? Why is it Kazuki can't control her powers? This is just what I've gleaned from talking to her, but... Oh, what I'm about to tell you is top secret stuff. Don't go around repeating it. You know how you need a shared idea to real boot a delusion, right? In my case, I chose a target to show the delusion and plugged the delusion directly into their mind. Sometimes the delusion involved sex. Other times it involved sex. On other occasions, there was sex. You can skip the jokes. No jokes here. I was serious. What's important is you're plugging that delusion directly into the target's brain. That's what creates a clear mental image that can be shared. This clear image is what is needed for a successful real boot, but Kazuki can't do that. All Kazuki can do is spread the information energy from her delusions via sound. Sound contains no visual information, which means the mental image itself becomes vague. It's a lot less reliable than implanting an image directly. Just like it's hard to visualize an image based off a description, right? Of course, an otaku like me can do that easy, as long as it has something to do with sex. But Kazuki's power has one other trait that makes it unique. Anyone who hears her voice is able to echo it. That's why it's called contagious. It's like a rumor. It grows and changes as it spreads, like a game of telephone. Imagine a guy giving a speech in front of a station. That's her, spreading her delusions to a random group of people. Now imagine somebody passing by hears the delusion and takes it to school and tells it to a friend. Then say that the person repeats it to someone else. The contents of the speech echo and expand. In the same way, Kazuki's sound can spread even when she's not there. That's what makes her different from a typical gigalomaniac, but even if it echoes, it's extremely rare for it to real boot. Like I said before, delusions spread by sound are very vague, and if the details are different, there's no shared image to be real booted. But once in a while, there's an extremely low probability several people will imagine the same image when they hear a given word. When that happened, oh, Kazuki's delusion's real Buddha whether she wants it to be or not. When Kazuki speaks, she has no way of knowing if there's an astronomically low chance two people somewhere will share the same mental image. It's all coincidence. So that's why she was yelling it out to the crowd down below. She was just needed at least a couple of people to be able to share that delusion with her. That's a lot of information to take in. I tried as hard as I could to understand everything that Nineheart was saying. A rumor can, under certain circumstances, turn into a form of demagoguery capable of altering an entire society. So Kazuki's power might be the same thing as that. That would explain why it isn't safe for her to talk. It must be such a terrifying possibility to her. So what about the ESO2 portal device? It was real booted last night when Kazuki spoke. Oh, so that news story was you guys. Why a portal device? I just told you she can't control her powers, right? Someone who heard it just happened to know about ESO2's portal devices, and it just happened to be real booted. That's all. It's just a coincidence. Of course, you could say it's a coincidence the other things she said weren't real booted. The second the woman who was attacking us touched the portal, she disappeared. Where do you think she went? Oh, you know. She's probably dead, right? He typed out those callous words like he really didn't care at all, even though it was something neither Kazuki nor I wanted to accept. That portal device was the only thing that got real booted, right? I ran a net search and didn't see any others. In ESO2, if you touch a portal device, you get warped to another one. But if there's only one device, there's nowhere for her to warp to, right? She was probably transported to a dimensional rift or dissolved at the subatomical level. Of course, even if there were two portal devices, I don't think you'd actually be able to teleport between them. Basically, it only recreated its appearance. Even more cold words appeared on the computer's LCD monitor. Kazuki and I both stared at them. She was dead. The woman really was dead. Hearing it from an objective third party made me want to throw up. Sorry, I gotta log off. Gotta go to Nippon Bashi and get me a Yume Nohara Mimi figure. Nippon Bashi? Are you in Osaka? Sure, why not? Why so vague? I'm actually super busy these days, running around the world. I haven't been able to make it to Akihabara in a while, which actually sucks. So today I'm having an otaku merchandise hunting party. Furthermore, I will be the only one participating. Last night I was so excited, I only got 2 hours of sleep. Feels like Takumi has not changed much from who we knew him from the last game. Did you hear about the last episode of Gun Barrel being cancelled? I know there's something going on with that, like the staff got into a fight or something. My otaku sense is tingling. The Mimi figures are going to be in high demand real soon now, so I guess he's moved on from his other waifu. That's why I'm going to get him while I can. I can make a fortune reselling them. Anyway, you kids have fun, lol. Like, he literally sounds like the same person he was at the beginning of Chaos Head. Is this really the kind of person Nineheart is? I'm a little disappointed, maybe.
変数2でしか会えないかもだから結構コンタクト取るの面倒
Be wild if we could actually meet up with him and see, like, what he's up to now. Like, what does he look like? Is he still with Rimi?
すれば大抵いるけど
It's a weekday, but he did say he was going to Nippon Bashi. He also said he was traveling around the world. Both of those statements seem like lies. Just who is he, really? I didn't get a chance to ask him about what happened 6 years ago, either. Maybe it's a fake. Maybe it's just someone who's taking on his like information and his handle to get information from the psychics. I don't know, but there's no point in thinking about Nineheart now. What should we do? Go to the police? Or pretend we don't know anything? Should we pretend we weren't even at the school last night? Should I tell Serika and Kurusu? Then again, rumors aren't something anyone can control. The more people that know a secret, the more likely it is to leak.
昨日のことは僕と和樹だけの秘密にしよう。
Kazuki froze and looked at me pleadingly.
それでしばらく様子を見る。
I still don't know why that woman had attacked us. It didn't seem to have anything to do with the return of the new gen madness, though. That seems to be the thing, is like, with the exception of the first playthrough, all these routes seem to deviate from the new gen madness and goes into a completely different... It's like that's not even the concern anymore. The way she attacked us was too different from the other murders. The most likely possibility is she was a psychopath. It's like Serica had her thing set of how the murders were going to go, and by us choosing different choices and going in the other routes, it's like we're throwing off her whole plan. The most likely possibility is she was a psychopath, but that's only a theory. Maybe someone else is controlling her. It would be best to be careful. I should avoid attracting any unnecessary attention to myself. Maybe I should shut down the newspaper club for a while too.
Takuru-senpai. ごめんなさい。
For some reason, she apologized, even though it wasn't her fault. If anything, it was my fault for getting her involved.
これで分かったかもしれないけど、先輩も私とこれ以上話さない方がいいかも。私の声、良くないこと引き起こしちゃうから。こんな声、なければよかった。
She looked down, wearing a melancholy expression. Her power really is making her suffer. As an older student from her club, I should probably say something to her. She did use her power to save me after all, even though she hates it.
なあ、カズキ。昨日、助けてくれて、ありがとう。感謝してるんだ。カズキ自身は力を嫌っているかもしれないけどさ。
I like how he's starting to adopt the maybe thing as well.
僕はその力のおかげで今も生きてるわけで。それにほら、そう、あれだ。そんなにカズキの声悪くないと思う。可愛い声してるって、本当にお世辞じゃなくて。だから、そんなに自分の声のことを否定するなよ。
Wow, that was pretty embarrassing to say. I can feel the sweat beading on my forehead. But Kazuki didn't respond at all. She was looking down at her cell phone. I looked closer and saw there was a cord running from it to her ears. She didn't hear any of what I just said. What the hell? Whatever, I'm going back to sleep then. I went to a corner of the room, buried my head in my knees, and tried to sleep.
ありがとう、先輩。
Alright, everybody, that is it for today. So it's always fun when I do the new routes because I don't know which route I'm doing. I just know the name of it and how to like activate the route, but I don't know whose route it is. So it's always a fun surprise. Be like, okay, which person is it going to be focused on this time? And yeah, Kazuki. So already learning a lot about her. We got hints of her ability in the last one, in Aramura's route. And I had a feeling that based on what she said about, you know, Aramura wanting to see her brother again, it was something related to her being able to bring things into reality. But now we get in depth about what her abilities actually are, and it explains why she doesn't talk. I was assuming that she was more of a nefarious character, but more of a tragic character, actually. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I feel like with this ability she has, it's going to be maybe about Takeru teaching her how to control her ability and to have it not basically ruin her life, and hopefully she'll be able to talk to people and be able to be who she was before she got her ability. So that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned next week for episode 27. Until then, bye. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Revealing Storm, Lynn's VA, Kenji Storm, Icognito, Kevlar, Jesse Pelletier Lemire, and Lucas Gomes.